Hello, I'm Joshua Unruh, your superhero scholar. A while back, I recorded some short segments for another comic book podcast on the absolute bonkers nature of comics in the earliest days of superheroes. They're still available on that show, but I thought you, my loyal listeners, might like another crack at them. They're from earlier in my podcasting career, so please forgive any lack of quality, audio or otherwise. Without further delay, welcome to my very irregularly updated new segment, What the F*** Golden Age? Hello, and welcome to another episode of What the F*** Golden Age? I'm your host, Joshua Unruh. If you'll recall, Superman acted like a big bang for the burgeoning concept of the superhero. But just like it took a bit for the laws of physics to settle down in the actual universe, the rules of the superhero genre took a while to solidify as well. In the meantime, ideas for superheroes exploded in all directions at terrific speeds and with tremendous energy. No star burned as brightly or as oddly as Fletcher Hanks. And just like the brightest stars, Mr. Hanks burned out rather than fade away. But we'll come to that. Born December 1st, 1889 to an alcoholic father and a mollycoddling mother, Fletcher Hanks would become known as three things: an abusive patriarch, a drunk, and a cartoonist. Though quite a bit older than the teenagers getting into the superhero game, Hanks worked for Fiction House, Fox Features Syndicate, and even the legendary Will Eisner. Hanks became known for his spare, thick-line style that reproduced well on the cheap paper used for comics. He also became known as a one-man band of sorts, doing all the writing, penciling, inking, and coloring on his stories. For 2 years, Hanks created art that was simultaneously ugly and utterly compelling. Scowling faces on two small heads sat atop elongated necks connected to hypermuscular bodies. And that's the heroes. The human villains are similar, though their faces have the complexion of rusting corrugated metal. The inhuman villains are just plain odd. The super science devices all look like Dr. Seuss turned to villainy, and the plots make as much sense as a 2-year-old trying to tell you a joke. But before Hanks dropped out of the biz and was found frozen on a park bench, penniless, and likely drunk, he created a wide variety of characters. They included Taboo the Wizard of the Jungle, which is just as problematic as you'd imagine from the title, Phantoma, a heroic woman predating Wonder Woman, and Stardust the Super Wizard. If you heard Stardust the Super Wizard and realize that's the one we're talking about today, you get a gold star for being observant. Stardust is an alien who looks entirely human, or at least as human as anyone ever looks in a Hanks comic. He monitors crime all over the universe from an observatory floating in space, and then he stops said crime with his ridiculous array of powers. These powers originate from his mastery of interstellar science, not from space magic as his name would suggest. He's a master of space and planetary forces. The gas of a certain star made him immune to heat and cold. He has artificial lungs that can breathe in any environment, including space. And he wears a skin of star metal, which renders him indestructible by chemicals, as well as electrical and violent forces. But all that pales before his scientific use of rays. Accelerated light rays, a disintegration ray, an anti-gravity ray, a spectral ray that makes him invisible or as bright as the sun, a supersolar fusing ray that wrecks machinery, a transporting ray so that anybody and anything could appear wherever the plot needed them to between panels, a radiophonic thought recording ray for convincing gangsters to murder their accomplices, a magnetic ray that works on people and is somehow completely different than his suspending ray, a boomerang ray that just bounces whatever was supposed to happen back on the perpetrator, missing an opportunity, I feel, to call it a petard ray or an I'm rubber you're glue ray, a crime-detecting ray phone, a rarefying beam, one assumes a holdover from his undergrad work on beams before specializing in rays for his doctorate, and a secret ray that shows criminals all the skeletons of their victims. That last one probably should have been called the dark as ray. What kind of villains would such a hero battle? How's about an army of spies with weapons such as typhoid germs, poison gas, hot X fusing liquid, an atom smasher, shredding guns, liquid flame bombs, black light bombs, wind traps, glue pits, and expanding bullets with which they plan to assassinate the president? Or perhaps Blood the Rip, an arms dealer who tried to start a world war so he could get richer. Or Martineus, warlord of Mars and employer of the Brain Men of Mars. Or the Emerald Men of Asperus. Or perhaps Molocha the Space Pirate. Sounds like the battles would be pretty fantastic, right? Nope. This is the Golden Age, a time when comics favored telling over showing on an epic scale. Seriously, at one point, highly armed men fly in a fake Japanese bomber and kidnap the president. You know what we get to see? The plane's silhouette in various distances ranging from far away to super hella far away. It isn't exactly riveting. But even close up, the battles are like my son and I playing with his action figures.
Your attack bounces off my indestructible star metal skin.
Of course it does. Well, then I fire anti-star metal acid bombs.
I create a cloud of acid-proof dust to stop them.
Of course you do. Well, still, you'll never catch all the Emerald Men.
I do when I imprison them with film rock gas.
What even is that?
Gas I turn into a ball of glass I use as a prison.
Of course it is. Where did you even get that?
From a nearby star.
Of course you did. Still, the Emerald Men of Asperus will menace Earth another day.
Nope. I moved their whole planet to where they are only uninhabited planets, so there's nobody for them to be mean to. Now, I'll break up the world war on Mars.
Seriously, they're all like that. The villainous plot may require chemicals pumped into the bowels of the Earth, invisible vacuum tubes to kidnap prominent businessmen, turning off the gravity so everyone flies off into space, or even gland control magic. But it all comes down to the space wizard throwing rock when the bad guys throw scissors. Still, much like the art, the stories are utterly compelling even in their absurdity. Sometimes this is achieved with understatement. As Stardust flies at 200,000 miles per minute in a cosmic game of chicken, the Emerald Men are, quote-unquote, traveling rapidly too. Sometimes it's in unexpected darkness. At one point, Stardust threw a guy into space so that he came to rest light years away in the floating prison of eternal ice, where he'd be a frozen spaceite, unable to move, but still able to think and see, so as to ponder his crimes for all eternity. What? Too dark? Anyway, I can't exactly say that any of the Stardust stories are good, but I can definitely say they keep your attention. Makes that upstart royal kid and his stone giant crushing Nazis look a little paltry in comparison, doesn't it? In the future, we'll revisit Hanks again at the very least to discuss Phantomop. In the meantime, check the show notes for links to all the Stardust stories at the Digital Comic Museum. Throw them a buck or two while you're there. If you like what you see, Fantagraphics reprinted all of Hanks's work in 2 volumes. I Shall Destroy All the Civilized Planets, and You Shall Die by Your Own Evil Creation. As always, hit me up on Twitter with any questions or comments. You can find me at Joshua Unruh. Hashtag it WTFGA so everybody can play. Until next time, keep asking.
What the Golden Age?
WTF Golden Age is a Pulp Diction Productions program and is 100% supported by listeners like you. To find out how you can keep this and our other shows in production, check out patreon.com/pulpdictionproductions. And if you can't support us financially, please leave the show a rating and review on iTunes. It's the best way to help others discover the show and join the conversation. Keep up with everything we're doing at www.pulpdiction.biz or find us at www.facebook.com/pulpdictionproductions.